Comrades and friends, the development of South-South cooperation is now a matter of the greatest urgency for the non-aligned and developing countries. Since World War II, the peoples of many countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America have freed themselves from colonial fetters, have won political independence, and have embarked on the road of independent development. But there is no small number of developing countries whose people have not yet achieved economic independence and are experiencing a series of economic difficulties in building new societies. In many of the non-aligned and developing countries, the evil consequences of imperialist colonial rule have not yet been eliminated, where still new economic problems are growing daily because of the imperialist neo-colonialist policies and the present unfair international economic system. The present international economic system is a product of colonialism. It is a system whereby the Western monopolies enrich themselves. Today, the imperialists are pursuing the predatory policy of profiteering at the expense of the developing countries by using their monopolistic position in international economic relations. As a result, the natural resources of developing countries and the fruits of their people's labors are being snatched away cheaply by the developed capitalist countries, and the huge foreign debts of developing countries are growing all the time. Not to mention the living conditions of their peoples are going from bad to worse. The gulf between the poor developing countries and the rich developed nations is becoming wider as the days go by, and the trend of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer has now become more aggravated worldwide. If the developing countries are to extricate themselves from their present difficulties and build independent new societies, they must first break free of economic subjugation and build independent national economies. Economic independence is the material basis of a nation's independence and sovereignty. It is only when they achieve economic independence that the developing countries can maintain a completely independent stand, exercise full sovereignty in foreign relations, and consolidate the political independence that they themselves have won. South-South cooperation is a noble undertaking for developing countries to achieve economic independence through mutual economic and technical assistance and by meeting each other's needs. It represents a new form of international economic relations based on their common aspirations and interests. South-South cooperation is, in essence, an international movement of the peoples of the politically independent developing countries to win their economic freedom and sovereignty. By expanding South-South cooperation, the developing countries will be able to free themselves from economic subjugation and dependence and build independent national economies. If South-South cooperation is successful, it will make the present unfair international economic system ineffective, establish a new fair international economic order, and furthermore, have a favorable influence on improving North-South relations. There are many conditions and opportunities to affect South-South cooperation. Because they share the same lot and the same aspirations, the developing countries have a common interest in realizing South-South cooperation. They have enormous manpower and inexhaustible natural resources, as well as a certain amount of valuable experience and skills that can be exchanged amongst them. If the non-aligned and developing countries employ all these conditions and opportunities properly to work together, South-South cooperation will be effected successfully. Since the start of its historic advance, the non-aligned movement has always paid close attention to strengthening economic cooperation between developing countries. Thanks to the positive initiatives and efforts of many non-aligned and developing countries, the political guidelines on economic cooperation between developing countries have already been set out, and a detailed program of action and several decisions on economic cooperation have been adopted at the non-aligned summit conferences and other international meetings. Projects for cooperation are now underway in many spheres. Needless to say, these are valuable achievements in the realization of South-South cooperation. But this is only the beginning of South-South cooperation when we consider the enormous potential of developing countries and their real needs. As all of us admit, South-South cooperation is not being undertaken far beyond the bilateral or regional scope, and it is proceeding within limits. The non-aligned and developing countries should take measures for a full-scale development of South-South cooperation and increase economic and technical cooperation exchanges rapidly. If there is to be a full-scale development of South-South cooperation, the non-aligned countries must strictly observe to the principles of collective self-reliance, complete equality, and mutual benefit on the basis of maintaining independence. Collective self-reliance is the common ideal and principle for all the peoples of the non-aligned countries in their struggle to shape their destinies for themselves in a spirit of unity and cooperation. The masses of the people have to forge their own destinies. To this end, they must unite and cooperate with each other, not only within their own countries, but also on an international scale, under the banner of self-reliance. It is only when they adhere to the principle of collective self-reliance that the peoples of the non-aligned countries can rid themselves of their dependence on developed countries and expand South-South cooperation effectively in the spirit of independence and solidarity. All economic relations between the developing countries must be established according to the principles of complete equality and mutual benefit. It is an important feature of South-South cooperation to help one another and promote exchanges on completely equal terms in such a way as to benefit everyone concerned. If biased and unequal terms are permitted in economic relations between developing countries, it may result in one country encroaching on the interest of another and in further creating a new relationship of subjugation and dependence between developing countries. This will contradict the basic idea and aim of South-South cooperation. The non-aligned countries must develop economic and technical cooperation and exchanges from the point of view of genuinely helping each other and promoting each other's interest, irrespective of the size of the countries concerned and the degree of economic and cultural development, so that South-South cooperation can be a model of the fairest and most equal international economic relationship.